Hey, g'day everybody, Dougie here again, finally. It's been about 5 months since since my last video. Just had a few things going on, I guess, in life, and to be honest, I don't know where 5 months has gone. So I thought it was about time to do another video. The 323 hasn't moved in that 5 months. It's literally sat in the same spot. Done a few little things to it, and it's been started a few times and run, but that's about it. Hasn't actually moved, haven't actually taken it for a proper drive, believe it or not. So that's why it's got the sad face, but I definitely plan to get onto that soon, especially with the fact that we can get 1 year warrant of fitnesses from September onwards, so that's pretty exciting. So we'll hold on to that, and then definitely go get a waft for it once September rolls around. So it's pretty cool, about damn time, to be honest. So this little video is actually about a 13B Jport. So I've actually got and it's quite a special 13B Jport. Just helping one of the fellas out. Basically the motor's dropped a front rotor, and he just wants me to just pull it apart for him. And so I thought I could just make a bit of a video and just go through the steps of how I sort of go about pulling apart an engine and having a good look inside it, and yeah, just going over it. And I'm pretty excited about this one because it's like I said, it's a pretty special Jport. It actually is the motor from the old Marlboro 323 wagon from back in the 90s. So any of you old school guys have been into Rotaries for, you know, a fair bit of time, as long as me, I guess, and longer, you'll probably know of the infamous Marlboro 323 owned by a fella named James. And just a beast of a wagon, beast of a Jport, very fast NA, especially for back then. Lots of skids, just hectic as, and yeah, always put on a show. So a bit of history on the motor. It was actually built, it's a home build, and I think there's about 4 other motors similar to it, with maybe similar porting. There are some guys out there that know a bit more about it. So it's not a big Jport, it's quite small by J standards. Just sort of looking through the runners, and I guess it's sort of proof that bigger is not always better. So pretty excited to get it pulled apart and have a good look at it. It's dropped the front rotor, looks like carbon seals let go at some point, but we'll talk a bit more about it as we go through it. And yeah, let's get into it. Hope you guys enjoy the video, and hope you guys are all doing well and everything's going good. And yeah, that's cool to be back. So let's check it out. The motor's down here. Let's have a look at it. All right, so yeah, this is the engine here. Old school RX sort of 5 housings. It's got a bit of the smoothing happening there. You can see some of the colour. So the Marlboro wagon was this orange colour, same sort of colour as the hatchie there, and you can see some of that poking through in the paint. And yeah, so very cool. So I'm just gonna look at getting it. What I'll do is I'll actually get it up onto the bench, and that way I can save my knees and stuff. I'll sacrifice my back, save my knees from crunching down, and we'll just pull the get all the counterweights and stuff and unbolt it and start the process of pulling apart, and actually have a look through the ports and stuff. It'll just be easier to do it on the bench. So we'll get it up on the bench first and just sort of go from there. Grab my little flywheel locker. Missing a dowel there. There should be a dowel there. Let's see if I've got one actually. Right, that's just going to help me pick it up as well, and also when we sort of uncrack everything off, crack the main rear nut off and crack the front nut off, locking the flywheel will help in that respect. All right, let's get it on the bench. Right, up on the bench, good to go. There's our secondaries. Hard to see, but primaries typically a bit smaller. Nice little runners. Some big ass exhaust ports. Looks like this housing's had a bit of coolant in it, so that could be leaking, DevCon leaking, I guess. And then the front housing is where it's dropped the rotor. Okay, yeah, so we've got a pretty munted rotor tip there, groove. I don't know if you can see that. That's pretty bent up. It's quite a bit of damage. Carbon's chipped there. Looks like some damage to that rotor tip as well. Carbon apex seals. Bit of damage to the housing at the back there. I don't know if you can see that. That won't matter too much. Yeah, that tip's damaged as well. You can see it's all been flattened here. Flattened. So yeah. Rear looks okay there, apart from the leak. Yeah. Alrighty, so yeah, story goes with this engine, I guess. The fellow that owns it now, he's had it for quite a long time. I don't know exactly how he acquired it, but it was actually freshened up at one point, and then it just sat for a long time and sort of wasn't run. And he basically recently sort of got it all running and stuff, and got it all started, driving all good. And then I believe there was an issue with the distributor, cracked cap or something like that, which possibly caused some wayward spark, but it ended up, for whatever reason, looks like it's dropped a carbon in the front, or and damaged stuff. But it is also possible that the motor's ingested something a bit harder in that front housing that's caused the damage. But yeah, wayward spark, destruction of a carbon. I know some carbon's a bit iffy, especially if they're a bit old as well. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, that's the story of it. Tough as fuck motor, from way back. A little bit of history there. Very cool. And I remember there's an image in a performance car of the car when they did a Torque Performance Dyno Day. I'll dig out the magazine, and I think the caption read RX323 ran out of dyno at 250 kilometers per hour or something, and it said big balls or something like that. So yeah, so tough motor, very cool wagon from back in the day. So what we'll do with this video is I'll just go over how I sort of you know, pull a motor down, and just sort of how I do it. And you know, this YouTube channel, it's, you know, it's all about that sort of basic stuff, I guess. It's about, you know, giving you guys a bit of a help and just doing stuff at home. Like, this is sort of stuff that pretty much anyone can do, just with, you know, a few of the right tools and stuff like that. A little bit of know-how, a little bit of curiosity, and yeah, I'm hoping this video just helps some of you guys out. And of course, other people out there will have different ways of how they pull motors down and stuff like that, and different thoughts and stuff. But we'll do the first bit up on the bench here for you guys, and that will be cracking this front nut loose, and then getting the rear nut and the counterweight and flywheel off, and then we can get on the engine stand and start destacking the motor. Yeah, so let's get stuck into it and get this thing pulled apart. I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, so the easiest way to get the big 54mm nut off and the front sort of hub bolt off is a big impact wrench like this, which you can get these days. But we'll do it the old school way, okay? And that's just using like a sort of a big power bar like this, and then just like a a brace that we're going to bolt to the flywheel to sort of stop the motor, you know, moving and rolling over and stuff. Okay, so that's how I just did it since forever, was with this sort of stuff, and that's how a lot of people do it and works just fine. But if you can get a hold of a big, you know, impact wrench like the Milwaukee there, then that does help a lot and can save a lot of pain. Because in my experience, sometimes the flywheel nut and even the front hub bolt can be so damn tight that you just, I don't know, like this bar is a bar I've had for years, but I don't know if you can see that. It's just so twisted and bent from all the motors it's done in it. It's so bent, and the steel's so buggered now that it just flexes now. It doesn't really work. So, you know, some of these bolts, especially if the motor's like an unopened motor, or someone's used a lot of Loctite, and yeah, they can be really tough to get off. This is actually an official racing beat one, which is a bit of a cracker, but even this one's quite bent as well, just from the stresses of trying to undo those nuts. And for me, the best and safest way to do this is not on an engine stand. See guys doing it on an engine stand quite a bit, and it seems to work, but I've just been too scared to like risk it, to be honest. Knowing me, I'll try to do an engine stand and the bolt's holding or to snap or something will go flying, or it'll just be a disaster. So generally I once the sump's off and the oil pickup's off, I put the block on the floor and then do this. But we'll try to do it on the bench today, just so it's a bit easier to video, and just see how that goes. I've had it at times where I have to get someone to try and sit or stand on the motor and stuff to try and get them off, and if they are really tough to get off, then heat is your friend. So 2 minutes with a, you know, just like a butane torch or something like that, bit of heat on each on the nut will generally, you know, free them up pretty good so that you can undo them. But yeah, we'll see what troubles we encounter with these as we go on. Hopefully it should be pretty easy. Okay, so I'm just going to lock this flywheel back up. Having the flywheel not move is going to sort of you know, help when it comes to undoing the nut and the front bolt. Okay, so we'll just get our bar, and it's just going to attach to the flywheel there with some clutch bolts like that, and then that's going to help brace that while we try and undo this nut here. Want to make sure those are done up snug so we don't damage any threads or anything like that. Ooh. Massively tight, so I'm going to put a bit of heat on it and see if that helps. Alright, given that a couple of minutes, we'll try that now. Oh, easy. So see, that just moved so easily now after that heat. Look at that. So, you know, like I was like fully leaning on that with like most of my weight, wouldn't even budge, and then just after a bit of heat, just easy move. So heat is your friend when it comes to this stuff. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to leave that still sort of done up just while we crack the front bolt now. Okay, so we'll flip this around and do that. Okay, so we are targeting this bolt here. It is a 19mm, and I find that this sort of size bar tends to work alright. Let's see how we go with this one. There we go. That one didn't need any heat. Came loose pretty easy. Okay. Alright, but before we do that one, I want to take the counterweight off the back completely. So we've got that loose, and we're just going to take the rear flywheel and the rear counterweight off. And I just want to leave the front bolt sort of snug, just to protect the Torrington bearings while I tap the flywheel to get the counterweight off. Okay, so we'll just do that quickly now. Okay, don't need this anymore. Alrighty, so that's pretty much the hard bit done, I guess. That rear 54mm nut came off without too much trouble. It's really interesting seeing the difference that applying a bit of heat for a couple of minutes using a bit of a flame just helps it, you know, remove any Loctite. You can see there was some Loctite and stuff on this nut. Break that down and just make removing that nut a whole lot easier. So I just thought that this because this channel is about sort of helping out people and you know, who are maybe new to rotaries and stuff and learning. We're all always learning, but it might be a good time just to talk about just flywheels and auto counterweights. So skip past this part if you already know, but for some of you guys who don't know, this may help you a little bit. So this particular motor here, and you'll find most performance rotary engines of some sort will have this sort of configuration. The flywheel on this motor is basically a light aftermarket flywheel. Looks like a 10-pound model, and it's the motor's running an auto rear counterweight. So you can see the flywheel here. It's a nice thin design, good for like high revs, quick revving, and in behind it is the auto counterweight. Okay, so this flywheel actually bolts off and comes away from that auto counterweight, okay, as opposed to a factory flywheel, which is just a one-piece design. So I've got one here. This is just off a 12A. So you can see that this is just a solid piece of cast iron with a ring gear on it, and this is a factory flywheel, so a lot heavier. Don't know how much, maybe 30 pounds, 40 pounds or something like that. But the idea of going to this sort of design is that the motor preferably revs a lot freer, a lot quicker, and potentially higher as well. Okay, so with this design, the counterweight is built in, and it is just held on by that big 54mm nut and nothing else. So yeah, sort of like that. Okay, so over here we have an auto counterweight. So that's an auto counterweight. I believe this, I'm not sure what this is off actually. Might be an FC or an FD or something. So auto counterweight plus 10-pound aftermarket flywheel goes on like that, and that gives you your flywheel and your balance weight configuration like what's on this motor here. Alright, so now we're going to look to sort of take this flywheel off, and to do that we're not going to undo these bolts. Okay, we're going to leave that all intact, and we're just going to tap on it, and I'm just going to use a rubber mallet. And this counterweight sits on the eccentric shaft, and it's actually tapered, so it's like a taper design, so it kind of like just binds on and grips for the taper. And the same thing with the standard flywheel here, it's just like a taper. So just by tapping the flywheel with a rubber mallet, and I use a rubber mallet because it's less harsh than like using a a steel one or a metal one, that's just going to sort of pop that counterweight off the taper and remove the flywheel. Now, if you come across a motor that has no flywheel but has a auto counterweight like this, can be very difficult to get this off, like nigh on impossible. You will generally need something like this, okay, which is basically a counterweight puller, and that sort of just sits on top. The bolts go through and you tighten them up and it pops the counterweight off, okay. I actually keep a flywheel. This flywheel here is just for banging, so just for getting counterweights off. So if I ever come across a motor that has no flywheel and it has a counterweight, I just simply bolt this up to it and then I can just tap it and pop it off. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. A bit of just the difference between standard flywheels and your aftermarket light flywheels, which come in all different weights and that sort of thing. Now I find that the easiest way is just to tap this with a mallet. Should just pop off easily. Some people are concerned about maybe damaging the front Torrington bearings by doing this. I've never had that issue myself personally. Can't recall ever damaging any Torrington bearings doing it this way. But yeah, if you are a bit wary of it, then maybe using like a auto counterweight puller would be a better idea. And if you're going to replace your front stack and stuff with your Torrington bearings, it doesn't matter anyway. But like I said, I mean, I haven't done heaps of motors compared to some people, but I've never personally damaged any Torrington bearings or any of the front stack doing it this way. But I just keep the front bolt here, just keep that snug until you get the flywheel and counterweight off, okay. That way it keeps it all tight there. So pop my little flywheel stopper off again, off and on, on and off. All right, and I will just chuck this nut just a couple of turns on here, just in case the flywheel decides to come flying off, so that should just prevent that. Okay, just use a rubber mallet like this, does the trick. We're just going to give it a couple of sort of taps, and hopefully that'll just sort of pop it free. There we go. So they just popped it off beautifully, just like that. Okay, so that, you know, that wasn't even hard. That was just like super light, and it's just popped it off the taper perfectly. So yeah, no damage done. Just wailing on it with like steel mallets and shit. Not ideal. You don't need to do that. A few little love taps lightly with a rubber mallet, heavy rubber mallet, and seems to just pop it off just sweet. Okay, so just remove the nut again, and then there we go, she's off. Right, so you can see there the counterweight attached to the light aftermarket flywheel, like I've shown you before, and yeah, there we go. Nice bit of surface rust from sitting around. Yeah. Okay, so the next thing to do is we'll just have to get this the front bolt out. But yeah, what we'll do is we'll just pop it on the engine stand first, and we'll just leave that front bolt in just while we manhandle it onto the stand, because that's sort of holding the eccentric shaft in place. And not that it really matters, but we'll remove that front bolt, the eccentric shaft's going to slide around a bit more. It's keeping it sort of secure at the moment. So we'll get it onto the engine stand, and then I'll take that front bolt off, and then we can pull the front cover off, and then flip it up, and yeah, start de-stacking the sandwich. So yeah, and see what's inside. I'm excited. Cool, let's get it on the stand. Alright, so to get this on the stand, my engine stand is just the stock standard stand with one hole drilled in it, and just bolts up to these two holes on the front plate, using an M12 1.5, so basically like a wheel stud bolt. just like that, and that works for me really well. If the motor does have the studs here on the front cover, you will generally have to remove those before it will fit, just like I had to remove that stud there. But yeah, so let's just get this bolted up and get it on the stand. So we're just gonna use the little impact wrench to just get the bolt out. That'll take the hub off, and then we can remove the front cover, these bolts here, yeah, and here, and then as you pop the front cover off, and then that'll give us access to the front stack and the oil pump assembly, which we will then remove before we flip the motor over and start undoing it all. So yeah, let's get on with that. Really good when you get to this sort of stage is just to have like a container or a tray or something like that, just to put all the bits and bobs in. You can get these from Bunnings, I think. Yeah, pretty sure they still do something like this, but definitely a good idea just to sort of start keeping all the little bits and bobs together, because there's a few different keyways and small bolts and things like that. Okay. Oh, a lot of old Loctite and gunk, or yeah. Right, I can see in there that's a later model FC front bolt. It's got the little hole for the thermal pellet, but we can see in there, it's a bit hard to see. It's kind of interesting though. I'll get my light. You can see down in there, the end of the eccentric shaft has actually been blocked off, which is interesting in some way, shape or form. So it'll be interesting to have a closer look at that. Once we get it apart. We have sort of blocking the end of the eccentric shaft to make sure you get full oil pressure and sprayed to the rotors, oil sprayed to the rotors. Okay, so the hub will just slide out. Put that in our tray. I'll just get rid of some of that crap. Better. Alright, cool. Let's undo these bolts. These aren't torqued very tight. Okay, might just have to give that a bit of a tap just to get it off. Little rubber, plastic, hammer, mallet, do the trick. There we go. Love taps. There we go. I got the front cover off. Alrighty. Yep. Alright, so here we have the oil pump. Alright, distributor drive, oil pump drive, front counterweight, and there's our front stack thrust assembly there, our Torrington bearings and stuff underneath. Front cover gasket, all looks pretty new still. So yeah, so we'll get this done and get this removed, and then go from there. Okay, we can slide the distributor drive gear off. Okay. Alright. This we want to take apart as sort of one whole, so the pump drive, sprocket, chain and oil pump. Now I highly recommend you do not undo this nut. Okay, there's a tiny little keyway in here that can be a real bastard to get back on, so it's better to just get a little 10 mil and just undo the 4 bolts, okay, for the oil pump, and then just take the oil pump off as a whole along with the sprocket, okay, and it just slide off the keyway there. Okay, you can undo this bit by, you know, flattening out the washer and taking this off, but it can be a real bastard to get back together. And you know, like, you can inspect the oil pump pretty good with it together as well as to whether you want to replace it or not. So it's best to just take it apart as a whole to begin with, I find. Righty, so there's the 4 little oil pump bolts. Righty, so this oil pump assembly, the oil pump and the sprocket will just like sort of come off as one now. Just put your hand under here so that the oil pump gear doesn't drop out. So you don't want any of the pump gears dropping out. Okay, there we go. Pop that into our tray. Righty. There's a keyway there, it holds everything together. So this counterweight should just, front counterweight should just slide off now. I have had these when they're just super tight. They won't come off, and it can be a real pain in the butt. Sometimes the keyway is just super tight. But generally they sort of do just slide off okay. I'm going to try to balance the camera here. There we go, other keyway's coming with it, which is fine. Righty, so we've got our front keyway, our front counterweight, and there's a shim, like a running shim there as well, so make sure you don't lose that. The underneath we've got our first Torrington bearing there. Alright, so Torrington bearing, and you can just kind of see that that's sitting on the infloat spacer, which is this piece here. Okay, Torrington bearing just sits around that like that. Okay, so we'll just undo these bolts here, and we'll take the rest of the bearings and stuff out as well. We'll just keep one bolt handy. I'll just put it over here. The rest can go on the tray. Alright, running plate comes off. Okay. Looks like there's been a bit of water or moisture in there or something. Alright. A little bit of wear there. It looks alright. Alright, second Torrington bearing. Alright, infloat spacer. Okay, looks like a V spacer, so that relates to the size of the spacer. Okay, a taller spacer will give you more infloat, a shorter spacer will give you less infloat. Okay, and then bottom run plate, which doesn't want to come out. Bottom thrust plate, always chamfer side down when you're installing it. Okay, so technically this stationary gear will come out now. So I think we should just slide it out and just have a quick look, eh? There you go. Interesting, it's got standard bearings. Yeah, probably not recommended for a high revving motor, but yeah, look good, look okay. Okay, you can see the eccentric shaft in there, which is pretty cool, and you can see the rotor gear, the front rotor gear there, just in there. So it's pretty cool. Love this stuff. All right, we are going to pop the stationary gear back in. Okay, for the time being, just like that, and we're just going to use one bolt just to hold it in place. Just gently nipped up. Cool. So that's going to hold that in place. All right. Alrighty, so that's all the front stack. Just you know, pulled apart. First glance, it all looks pretty good. What we need to do is just flip the motor up the other way. We can actually now remove the through bolts, the rear keyway, etc., and start unstacking the engine. I did hear a bit of water inside the motor still when I was lifting it onto the bench, so I'm just going to drain that center plate first and just try and get out as much water as possible, because I think there's still a bit in there. Tends to make a mess. Always makes a mess no matter what when I do this, but we'll try and minimize it a little bit. Wow, look who's decided to show up. Hey? Hi. You guys have been hopeless. Where have you been? Hey, where have you been? Hey, where have you been? You've been MIA. You've been MIA. Hey, no help whatsoever. Hey? Sleeping. No help. Yes, no help. Hey? Love you all. Slackers.